Mm, wow. Hello. My name is Kosma, and it's so hard to start early in the morning. I came here from Poland. I was invited by Heta. I'd like to thank her very, very much. Uh, to tell a bit the recent development of autistic self-advocacy in Poland, we are a very young community compared to many of the others, and we are doing things a bit differently. And I want to share a little bit about how we do things. And the usual disclaimer is that I'm standing here on the stage and talking. I'm not always that smart in real life. And I think it applies to anyone who gets on stage and looks all fancy. So it's all started with a little community, because first we had to get to know each other. And we met each other on a Facebook group, because the internet really, really helps. It was a parent group, and I think we spent a year or two just living with the parents, but it quickly led to some disagreements, because we would say that we want to decide for ourselves, and someone would say, no, this is for your greater good, and stuff like that. So there was a big disagreement with the parents. Someone said something. But to start our own community, we needed a critical mass of people. You can't just get 3 or 4 or 5 people and start a community, because it doesn't work that way. And I think by the time we started our own community, there was about 50 people. But you need that starting point. And for us, the community was always about friendship and support. The advocacy part always comes later. But you always start with people who like to spend time with each other. You start with people who understand each other. And you don't start a community in order to do something. You start a community in order to have a community. So you are not alone. But as soon as we got a community, we started to talk to people about autism, and they would listen. And it was very weird, because for me, people wouldn't listen most of my life, and suddenly I'm talking, and they are listening, and you are listening. We had a friend who had a blog for years, but there was no real community. She was just writing about autism on the internet. It's a very nice blog. Then a friend wrote a book with a very nice title, a pretty scientific book about what autism spectrum is and isn't. And you get this, it was a bit of a critical event, because this book was released and suddenly many people were reading it and buying it, and we started to form a community around it. Just thinking, oh, I can do that too. I can tell people about my experience. Maybe I can tell them what works. And I know that in many other countries, the self-advocacy starts with people telling their life story. Like, I don't know, Donna Williams or Temple Grandin, who just basically wrote books about their childhood and growing up, stuff like that. And we kind of started from the opposite. Because when I got into autism, I got very much, I have a special interest in autism. I started to study it from a rather scientific point of view. Because I'm an engineer, and for me it's just another system to be figured out. Because I work with systems every day. So the first lectures we did, we had a friend, and my pretty much mothership organization is Fundacja Prodesta, and it is not an autistic association or anything like that. It's just an organization that helps autistic people. But it's run by an autistic person and in a very friendly way. And it was a chance for us to get a voice. Because Fundacja Prodesta let us basically go to a scientific conference, and they would push us on the stage and just let us say whatever we want. They gave us voice and they gave us freedom, and it's not often that it happens. Because very often people would invite me to a conference and they want me to say something specific, and they don't want me to upset anyone, especially the professionals. Because if I came on stage and said that the majority of professionals that I met are unprofessional, that I had about 10 therapists before I met one that knew what autism is, they had 5 psychiatrists before I met one that knows how to medicate people with autism, because it's just different. So we got a chance to speak to all those professionals, and they would listen. And the early work, it wasn't organized in any way, because you don't really need much to be a self-advocate. You basically go out and talk and people listen. So people started doing things. I would get invited to the radio for an interview or write an article or two. And suddenly, people started finding out, or there's this group of people who talk about autism from their own experience, and it started growing very fast. It just kind of exploded. But for doing all these things, you don't need an organization. You can start a blog by clicking the button on Google. You can get invited to a workshop. You don't need an organization for that. But we did. We realized that at some point we got 10 people who were working self-advocacy pretty much as their second job. Because I started getting invitations so often I had to reject them because they would overlap, and just we get overloaded with work. So we thought, okay, we need a brand, we need to be recognizable. It was too big. It wasn't a plan. I didn't make a decision that I want to start an advocacy revolution in Poland. It just happened. And the beginnings were very important, because these are your roots, and the way you start your organization pretty much determines how it will operate for years, maybe a significant part of your life. And some people had the idea to do an organization before me, and they tried and they failed. And I think the reason was there was just not enough people to do it. You need a certain size of a group, you need a critical mass of people. But there was this question, why do we need an organization in the first place? I mean, we need a logo, like the fireflies you saw in the jar. I like this analogy that when you are kept in a jar under a closed lid, you are blue. But if someone releases you from the jar, they let you free and not tell you how to live your life, you get all the colors. And it's not the blue autism anymore. So we had that logo, we had a name, but we had no idea why we need an organization. And the friend said, well, we have a legal entity of Fundacja Prodesta. So if you need to do some billing and invoice, you need help organizing stuff, we can help. And we don't have an official organization until even now. We don't need it yet, because we have the legal entity that we use. And what matters is the work. And it helps because we don't have to do the paperwork for now. And there are two ways to do things, really. And I thought it has to be like this. You make an organization, and then you get to do the work. But you don't have to. Turns out we were doing the work already. So what we do is shaping our organization culture, and maybe one day we will register as a charity or something. But it is not strictly necessary. So turned out just a bit of a nature of Polish people is that we like to do things ourselves, just we don't like a government too much. So we didn't decide, okay, so we need a board of directors or a chairman or something like that, and we don't have a formal structure until today. It's still working out. So we work a bit like several people who met together, and there is no big plan. There is no government, no directors. We have this, I call them elders, the people who are in the community for a long time, that they have the decision power, and we have 3 of those people right now, and the rest are just people doing stuff. And the elders are here mostly to make sure that the younger people don't do anything stupid. Because if you start to run an organization like that, you need to be very, very careful that you are not aggressive, that your message is not, I don't know, putting blame or parents or something like that. You need to be very, very respectful, because every mistake you make will be noticed. So we don't want an organization for doing the paperwork. We don't like it. We do the organization because it helps us achieve goals. It's easier to do a conference as a group. It's easier if you have a legal entity. It's easier if you have human resources, if you have volunteers, extra people to help. But it's a resource, it's not a goal. And I think the whole problem with starting an organization is that you need leaders. And the leaders need to be really solid people. Because we have lots of people who are very enthusiastic for 2 months, and then they disappear. So we need people who are reliable in the sense that they will stay. And the only way to find out if someone is reliable is to do work together. And doing work together is really the only way to verify, is this a trustworthy person? But if someone has been in a community for a year or 2 or 3 and they stick around and they don't cause drama, and when they promise you, they keep that promise, and they are emotionally stable, they can make a good leader. But they also need social skills, because we have many people who have great ideas, but they are not very good at managing resources or people or situations. They just think the idea is enough, but it's not. You need to get the execution right. You need to know how to talk to important people. It's a bit of a paradox, finding an autistic people with good social skills, like diplomacy almost. And you need 3 of those people. Because really, to start a thing like this, you need 3 people. So if there's a disagreement, then it's someone to decide. Because if you only have 2 people running the thing, there's this danger they're all gonna just discuss everything between themselves on Facebook, and no one will know what's going on. And we don't recruit people. There is no formal membership. No, I know it's some Eastern European craziness. And we just do things together and we find out, do we like that person? Are they reliable? Are they smart or maybe hardworking? Just figure out what this person is good at. We have some people who are very talented, but they take forever to complete their work. So we give them a job and we just give them time. No deadline, just if you finish, that's fantastic. If not, we gotta embrace it that not everything will be successful. You can't run a self-advocacy organization like a company, because it just doesn't work like that. It's not like you can tell a person, go and do something, because they have a bad case of inertia and they can't get out of bed for 2 days. Or they get depressed and they can't get out of bed for 2 months. And you have to plan for that. It's part of the job. So we battle test people. We basically give them tasks and see what happens. And you can't just test this during recruitment. It happens over time. And really, if we decide that you are a member, it doesn't bring you any benefits or anything like that. It's just a recognition that this person we consider to be a good self-advocate and we want them on our team. And some people don't want it. They want to work alone. I mean, we stay friends, but we had people reject the membership. And it's okay. But if you have a group of autistic people, it's like herding cats. The cats won't listen. You can just try to convince them and maybe they will do it. So we stay with small projects. Don't do a plan for 6 months. It won't work. I have no idea myself how I'm gonna feel in 6 months. What I will be doing in 6 months. My life is not very stable right now. So I do those little projects like a week or two. And whenever we do this kind of project, we just check who is available and who is able to do something. Because I gotta tell you that most of the time, some people just are not able to be advocates because they have personal problems. And it's okay. And our reality is that in the entire Polish self-advocacy scene, I think at any given time, at least one person is a psychiatric hospital because they had a breakdown for some reason. And you have to accept it, that you live in a reality. When you invite someone to a conference and they give a fantastic lecture and you think it's a great self-advocate, and then 2 months later, they take their own life. We had that happen. So it's not an easy world to live in, but it's worth it, still. And we have to realize that each of us has very specific skills and we are not good at everything, so we have to use what we have. We have two graphic designers in our team, and one of them is a bit younger and less experienced, but she does the work on time. The other one is much more talented. She's a professional illustrator, but she promises to do a project and disappears for half a year. And we have to just take that into account. And some people just, I think, shouldn't get into, I don't know, politics or negotiation or diplomacy, because nothing good is going to come out of it. I know I can't. If I have to negotiate something with some organization, I send my friend who is a diplomat. I don't do that. And every once in a while, especially when we are doing large conferences, stuff like that, there is stuff that is just too hard. You organize a conference and then you need a month to recover. It's not okay. It's too much. So we just get help from the outside. And it's also okay. And really, you are going to fail a lot if you try to do what we do. And just get used to it. It is pretty much okay to fail. It's part of the job. You're going to be late. Your car will break down on the way to a conference. And then will break down again on the way back from the conference. And then you organize a conference and the lecturer will just not come because they had a psychotic episode. It happens. And you have to plan for it. And just don't get too stressed about it. It just is part of the job. I'm talking a lot about the hard parts. But for me, the most fantastic thing is that we organize a conference and everything goes wrong. I mean, everything. And in the end, people are still so happy. Like, we get a delay of 30 minutes at the start. We get half an hour delay because the technical stuff isn't working. So it happens. We just get used to it. I don't know. Someone comes over and does a very bad lecture. because someone recommended them, we thought they are good, they are not. It happens. We just get over it. And it's a big life lesson for me that I had to learn that failing is okay. Because like many other autistic people, if I used to be a perfectionist, I needed to have everything done correctly. And you can't do a conference correctly, it's always wrong. There's always something. And the word of warning is that if you do this, you're gonna meet a lot of very weird and dangerous people. I mean weird in a bad way. It happens. If you go to any construction site, there are some renovations over here, they are building an entrance or something. The workers are wearing personal safety equipment, helmets, glasses, boots, stuff like that. Because if you do the work, accidents will happen. It's a fact. And if you do a lot of work, you will have a lot of accidents and you will have a lot of rather dangerous people that you meet. And really, I think every 2 months, we have to remove someone we cooperate with from the community, just cut contact with them because they are just going on wars with people, causing drama on purpose. I don't know. Everywhere. You can have any kind of person just cooperate with you today and be an enemy tomorrow. And it happens. And I wouldn't say it's okay, but it's reality. And just my only word of advice is just when it happens, get over it quickly. Just get rid of that person and move on with your work. Because you really, really don't want a war. Ever. You will get a lot of hate. And I've been asked a lot, how do I deal with hate? Because I get comments on the internet, the anti-vaccination mothers wishing I was dead, or worse. It happens. I just don't read it. I get enough support, so the hate is not the problem. And we are, at heart, a very happy anarchy. Because my organization is currently about 12 self-advocates, but we have many, many more people working independently. And they don't want to be a part of an association. They enjoy the freedom and I love it. There are now other groups. People are organizing. Like there is this LGBTQ, etc. autistic group. There's a women's group. There's some friends organizing in different cities because we do our stuff on the south of Poland and the north has got something. It's fantastic and I love it. And I don't want to create this one big countrywide autistic organization. Because to tell you the truth, when I look at these big organizations, I don't like them. They are powerful, but not in a very good way. And for me, working in small groups means that you keep the diversity, that you allow people to come up with new ideas, that you don't close yourself in one mindset. I find it dangerous if people think all the same. You don't get one person who just rules it all. I've seen it happen. I don't like it. I mean, if that person is smart and good, it's okay, But at some point, it slows the progress. And we don't want that. We want to protect ourselves from the trap of slowing progress. Because one person controlling everything can be a good thing or a bad thing. So we don't want to risk it. But we are all friends. This is what matters to me. That we have some people working solo, some in organizations, but we meet all together, and then we meet all the parents, psychiatrists, therapists, professionals, and we are still friends. And I guess this is why I do it. And when I first started the organization, an informal one, I wanted to kind of write the statutes, just how we operate, what are the principles. And you don't know your principles because you just started. You need some years of experience to know what you want in this field. And I got it written down. And when I wrote down no thought policing, I see a very peculiar problem in the West. Basically, groups of people saying, you are not allowed to think this way. And I find this very dangerous. And I meet parents who have different ideas than mine, sometimes very different, that they have a very ill autistic kid, that it's a tragedy. And I'm not going to blame them ever. Because I understand that they didn't get proper help or proper knowledge. They're just, I don't know the situation here, but in Poland, the parents and the kids are left alone pretty much. They get a diagnosis and that's all. They get lonely. And we kind of fill that gap. We just say, you're not alone. We will help you understand a little bit. And we don't compete, we cooperate. We have organizations in Poland, I find it hard to believe, like the big charities that consider us competition. We are not about the money, but they are. And we've done stuff. We've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 conferences in the last 3 years, big ones. I see some of the people present here were invited. Nice to see some familiar faces. And when we do a conference, we keep a balance. So we have one part professionals, one part parents, and one part autistic people. We make it a dialogue. We made some all autistic conferences, and to be honest, it wasn't such a great success. I mean, I think the next autistic event I'm gonna do in Poland will be just a social meeting, like a cultural social meeting, not a scientific conference. Enough of that. But most of our work are those little projects. You get contacted for an interview, so you do an interview, or that you want to record something for the TV, they come over. We have some books, some written independently, without any help from an organization, which I consider just fantastic. We are in contact with very good autism researchers, and I hope they publish something soon, because the Polish research on autism is groundbreaking, and just I stopped reading many of the Western books that are released on autism because the knowledge is not practical. When I read, I think, the 3 or 4 autism self-help books, and they didn't help. And then we have professionals in Poland who have these methods that do help me tremendously. And I hope it gets published very, very soon. We have a team that pushes policy changes in the government. But then you go to a conference or to a meeting with parents or something like that, and the people are thankful in the end, and they don't want to leave. They want to just stay there and talk. This is another reason why this, in the end, this is all worth it. And all the people we meet along the way, all the friendships we make, this is what stays with us. And if you define autism in terms of problems with relationships, we get great relationships doing this. And the community itself is just a support group. And I think it's the same everywhere. I mean, the general autistic community in Poland, we have Facebook groups, but people are just friends with each other. There are some couples born out of the community, which is also fantastic. It's still pretty small and pretty closed, and we are a bit worried to open up. We are trying to open up, and maybe one day we'll create this autistic association that's fully democratic. But I don't think we have enough people for that. Because remember about leaders, you need 3 more people to run this organization. The new one, the democratic one. And I don't think we have those another 3 people yet. But give us a few years and it will happen. Because you need to find those people, and it's a process that's very slow. Because every conference or meeting we make, new people come, and we slowly find new potential leaders or potential professionals. And one bit of advice is that if you want to run a community, a support group community, you need emotionally stable community managers or moderators. You need someone to look over the community and make sure there is no bullshit happening. Because it happens like everywhere. You need someone who is just calm or collected and just says, hey, you, stop doing that. We are not okay with this. And people either stop or cause drama. If they stop, there is good. If they cause drama, then there's a second warning, and then, sorry. We can't allow to have people attacking each other. It's a safe space, but a safe space is no excuse for being nasty. And the direction we are taking is that most of self-advocates are more on the scientific research level, because this is where we started. And I like it, because it pushes things forward, but at the same time, if you just go on stage and tell your life story, people love it. But it doesn't change much. And for me, the big question is who benefits from our work? Because what we do is mostly for educating professionals and parents, but the autistic people themselves, they don't benefit from it very much. It's a big effort, to be honest. because it's a big burden. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why are you doing this in the first place? Because it's very, very stressful. This is my last lecture this year, and I need a break until the end of the year. I'm just very, very tired from traveling around the world. I love it, but it's tiring. People break down all the time. We are supposed to help, and we break down, something's a bit wrong. And helping people is addictive. Because if you got ignored all your life, and suddenly people listen, it's hard to stop. And you need to learn to say no, because you get so many invitations and so many people asking for help, and I had to learn that if a parent messages me on Facebook and asks about their child, advice about the child, my answer is, sorry, I don't know your child. And also, I'm not a professional. I'm not authorized to give you advice. And we give a lot, but we also starting to learn we should also gain something in terms of support and happiness. And if you do self-advocacy, you help other people, you need your own support group to help yourself. Unless you want to just break down after a while. And our future is that after 2 years of running this organization, we know that it works. And I think after those 2 years and getting some experience, it's time to decide where we wanna, what we want to focus at. What are the important things? Do we do another interview, or do we do scientific research? Do we talk to the parents or the professionals? Or maybe we should stop and make some resources for other autistic people. Maybe we should start doing workshops for autistic people. We already have people doing that. And this is the last sentence, I think, is the most important part for me, that we need to help ourselves before we can help others. And that we need to organize our own support group. So we can keep doing this. And I really, really hope then when I come here, because I want to come here again, I gotta say, I just love Finland. I'm here for the first time and it's a very friendly place for me. That I will be able to say that we had some experience, we had some conclusions and some decisions, and we did something good. And that it was a step in the right direction. We are still very, very young, and hopefully the next time we are here, we are a bit older and more experienced. Thank you.
Nyt olisiko jollain kysymyksiä? Do you have questions for Kosma?
We don't have a formal association. It's just a bunch of friends. We don't have a formal umbrella organization. There are some charities, but there is no like a big association for autistic people. I think there is an association for autism professionals and parents, but I don't care about it. they don't do anything. Yeah, it's a bit of a culture difference because the big organization in Poland don't share money. They keep it for themselves. There are more business than organization, I guess. It's horrible. So there is no benefit of someone controlling you or giving you money. It's more of a problem. But I get it, it's culture. It's definitely culture.
Yesterday we talked a lot about Finnish services. When you and your friends go out to talk, to lecture, you write, is there some part of the Polish service system that you aim to change?
There is not much to change.
So you're happy with any disability benefits, any assistance that everybody's getting?
The system is a disaster, and when I say there is not much to change, I mean that there is not much benefit to get, and it's a bit of a disability lottery because you never know what they're gonna say. And for us, the services, do we even have any services? No, we just use the community as a bit of a network to recommend some professionals. So when someone has a problem in the specific city, we just go say, okay, for this problem in this city, this professional knows it, but it's all private sector and you gotta pay for it. The public sector services are something to avoid.
Yeah, thank you, Kosma.
Thank you.